Hey everybody, it's Scott with Football Scoop. Today I've invited Bob Eblen, who is the national columnist with D-II-Football.com, to come on the site and talk to us a little bit about D2 playoffs. Playoffs start Saturday. Bob is pretty much the leading expert in D2 football nationwide, so I just want to get Bob's thoughts on the bracket. The bracket's available on D2Football.com. They've actually got a great bracket, better than any other ones that we've seen. Bob, with that said, we've got 24 teams. They're starting to play on Saturday. I might hand it over to you and see if you can give us some insight on the various brackets.
Well, it's a very interesting year, Scott, in this respect. I don't think there's a real favorite to win this season. Normally, these past few years, it's kind of been dominated by three teams. Grand Valley State, Northwest Missouri State, and Minnesota Duluth have been the three teams that have made a lot of appearances in the championship game, and now this season you have Grand Valley State not even in the playoffs. It's the first time in 10 years that they've missed out. And you have Northwest Missouri State. This is the first time since 2005 they lost more than one game in the regular season, so they're a fifth seed out of six teams in their region. And defending national champion Minnesota Duluth is 9-2 after going 15-0 last year. So it's really a wide open year. There's some new teams like Colorado State Pueblo that sit second nationally in our poll. That's sitting at 11-0. It's a program that's under John Riston that's brand new, just started 4 years ago, and they've already catapulted up to this position where they're vying for national championship.
Bob,
go ahead.
On Coach Riston, we, a lot of athletic directors call us just kind of for, just for our opinion on certain guys. There's a lot of people out there interested in Coach Riston. I think he's done a great job. It's the fourth year of the program.
Yeah, they did things right there. Coach Riston, I believe, is an alumnus of the school, and the story there being that then it was known as Southern Colorado had a football program up until the mid-'80s, dropped the program. I believe Coach Riston played at the school in the early 80s, or late 70s, somewhere in there. He was brought back to reconstitute the program here about 5 years ago, and they did everything right, from new facilities. They built a new stadium. They allowed him to hire a coaching staff and get in there in plenty of time so they could bring in an initial recruiting class and redshirt it. And now they're seeing the dividends. They've got a team loaded with seniors and juniors, and he just does a great job. They play hard-nosed football. They don't turn the ball over. The defense is always in great position. Just a fine job he's done there in a short time.
You guys have him like number 2 in the country, number 3 in the country, something like that?
Yeah, we have him second right now in the entire country.
It's a great story.
Yeah, they've had a great year, and they just kind of built a little every year. Last year, I think they're 8-2 or 9-3, and just kind of barely missed out. And now this year, they took off, and they've just handled everyone on their schedule.
Nice. All right, let's dive into the brackets. On D2Football.com, you can see the bracket, and they start up top with Super Region 2. And Delta State has had a great year as number 1 seed. Mars Hill is number 2. And then you got some great matchups in the games that'll be this weekend. Bob, tell me what I need to know about that region.
Well, the first round matchup, West Alabama, North Alabama, obviously two schools in Alabama like that. Everybody can kind of guess that that's a rivalry, and it certainly is. North Alabama is coached by Terry Bowden, of course, and a big name in the coaching industry, formerly of Auburn, and he's done a good job there in his 3 or 4 years. Can't remember exactly, but he's both 3 or 4 years he's been at UNA. And very interesting with Will Hall at West Alabama. He was a former North Alabama quarterback and Harlan Hill Trophy winner, the Harlan Hill being the Heisman of Division II back in 2003. Sure. This is his first year of taking over West Alabama after the departure of Coach Wallace down there, and he's done a great job. In fact, they beat UNA here a couple weeks ago and now host them again. So that's a very entertaining, should be hard-fought, rivalry-type game. I think another interesting story, Scott, in that region is Mars Hill and Coach Tim Clifton. I believe he's been at Mars Hill 17 or 18 years. It's a program that's always been in the shadow of Ken Sparks and Carson Newman and Catawba for a while in the South Atlantic Conference. And Mars Hill, after he's been patient for all that time there, they're finally getting their first shot at the playoffs. So I think that's another really interesting story sitting there at the second seed.
I totally agree. And boy, North Alabama and West Alabama go up against each other in a brutal rematch, and the winner's got to go play Delta State. That is rough. Feel for them. All right, let's jump down to Super Region 4, which is the next one down. Midwestern State, obviously, having an incredible season, 11-0 is number 1 seed, and Pitt State, number 2. But, boy, there's some great stories in the games they're going to play this weekend. Tell me about Eblen Christian and Northwest. Eblen Christian playing Washburn, and then Northwest Missouri and Missouri Western.
Well, Abilene and Christian and Washburn are two schools that are familiar with each other. Even though they're one's in Texas and one's in Kansas, they played last year, early season non-conference game. Coach Thompson, Abilene Christian, has done a great job. The thing with that game is the quarterback play. Mitchell Gale for Abilene Christian and Dane Simino from Washburn are two of the best, I believe, in the entire division. Coach Schurig at Washburn's done a great job with that program. It's a very tough league there in the MIAA to try to crack through Pittsburgh State, Northwest Missouri, but he's right there every year, and this is their third or fourth playoff appearance. That looks like a very entertaining game. And then, of course, the other big story, Missouri Western, Northwest Missouri State are meeting for the second time in 3 weeks. Big rivalry there. Northwest Missouri State head coach Mel Churchman there built that entire program from the ground up. He's there 17 years, I believe, and handed it over to Scott Bostwick, who tragically passed away in June, and now Adam Dorrell running the program, so on their third coach in less than a year at a program that's had great consistency. But that should be another great game. It was a 3-point Western win the last time they played.
And we had Ken Collins, offense coordinator at Abilene Christian, was our Division II coordinator of the year last year, and I was a little surprised to see them as a 6 seed in the region when I think they've obviously had a great year, and I know poll-wise, they're a highly ranked team, but I don't think they're complaining about who they play. It's that time. It's the playoffs. Let's go play whoever we're going to play. All right, jumping down to Region 1. Winston-Salem's 11-0, number 1 seed, and New Haven's number 2. But once again, there's some great storylines all over the place. Tell me what you see in these first couple of games.
Well, the first round matchup of Kutztown against Concord. Kutztown sits there at 10-1. They're coached by Ray Monica, who has done a tremendous job at that school. Just last week, Kutztown won the first PSAC championship in school history, believe it or not. I believe they've been playing football in 96 years or something like that. And so this is their second straight playoff trip. Coach Monica was with North Alabama in the mid-90s, and those great North Alabama teams that won the 3 straight Division II national championships. He's obviously brought what he knows from that to Kutztown, and they've done a tremendous job. You look at Concord, coached by Garen Justice, is one of the youngest coaches of Division II. Mike Keller, who was the head coach there, has gone back to California to once again be the offensive coordinator under John Luckhart. He left. One of the top players from Concord transferred with him. So here's Garen, a young coach in a tough league with Shepherd and West Virginia Wesleyan. They kind of picked a middle-of-the-pack team, and here they go win the conference and make the playoffs in his first year. So that's two great stories right there just in that region.
Good job, Coach Justice. Nice work. All right, Region 3 looks like an incredibly challenging region to come out of to me. You got Pueblo as number 1 seed, 11-0. Kearney, 10-1 as number 2 seed. 3 through 6 is brutal. You got St. Cloud at 3 seed playing Wayne State at 6 seed, and you got Minnesota Duluth, last year's national champion, at 4 seed playing Saginaw Valley. Yikes! Tell me what do we see there?
It's going to be a tough region. We've already talked about Pueblo and all the things they've done well there under Coach Riston. You look at Nebraska Kearney. Their single loss this year was to Pueblo. They kind of had a turnover-marked game. To me, that Kearney's the most talented team in that region. You just look at their roster. They benefited greatly from the unfortunate shutting down of the Nebraska Omaha program. They had several transfers come over there. Coach Morris had a senior-dominated team already. They've really been dominant all year except for that one game, so they're a factor. And you go down and look at Minnesota Duluth. They're not the team they've been when they won the national championships here 2 of the last 3 years. But you never want to count out a Bob Nielsen coach team this time of the year. They just do. They run the football. They don't commit the dumb penalties and turnovers that can haunt teams this time of the year. So they're a factor. Coach Winters at Wayne State. Paul Winters has done a great job rebuilding that program. They've slipped up a bit here of late. They're a good team. Scott Underwood, St. Cloud State's got them playing at a high level. They hammered Duluth here 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it's a very interesting region. I can make a case for 4 or 5 of those teams to win that particular region. It depends on who gets hot and who does the little things well.
I'm with you. I love Kearney's coaching staff with Coach Morrison, Coach Martin as offense coordinator, and Bob Crocker on defense. It's a talented staff, and they do a great job.
Well, they forced 39 turnovers this year in 11 games. That's remarkable. Now they've had a few turnover issues themselves in offense. They're prolific offensively. They're averaging well over 500 yards a game. Had a couple kids hurt in the middle of the year, and a new running back, things like that. And they had a couple turnover issues in a couple games. But if they can keep that under control and the way their defense plays, they're going to be awfully tough for anybody to beat in the playoffs.
God, that's great stuff, Bob. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on. Everybody's playing Saturday midday. Would love to get you back on next week, talk about the second round. This is great stuff. I appreciate it. I'm going to send everybody over to D-II-Football.com for all the latest D2 news. And thank you very much.
Absolutely. Not a problem, Scott.